Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Quiet Broad Abroad, a channel for women of a certain age who are wanting to expat or or slow travel for some time and or both. Sometimes you might want to start with slow travel. You're doing a scouting trip, thinking that you do want to move to a new country. So I started with the main fear. So check out that video. The links will always be below. The main fear of being alone and what if something happens. And I discussed the health issue. I think that's the primary issue. Let me know if you want me to dive deeper into that and make another video, maybe where I share my own personal experience of getting not terribly sick, but actually twice being sick abroad. Um, okay, so what are the other common fears? There's a lot of them down. It's about if you are doing this alone. So loneliness, I think, is the other main fear. Also, check out a video that I did about settling in, which really covered that, how to settle in and adjust to a new country. But I really think since loneliness is probably the main fear, like I'm going to be alone, I don't know anybody. So let me tackle it from a different perspective, but do watch that video about settling in. I give some great tips. I don't want to repeat them here. One thing I would do, and many other expats recommend it, is check out Facebook groups for where you're going to be. So join specific Facebook groups that are regionally focused. Expats in Denmark, expats in Rwanda, American expats in such and such, women over 50 in Paris, right? American expats in Paris. Facebook for that. I know many of us are moving off Facebook. I totally get that. But for that, Facebook is really great. So I would join at least three or four groups. And what I've heard from others, and I haven't specifically done this, is the bigger general groups, they have a lot of people, they can be helpful, but sometimes the smaller, more specific groups. So again, also, if you're in an ethnic group, if you're Jewish, right? If you're Black, join specific subgroups because in some ways you might get very specific help, right? If you're Jewish, maybe you want to know where there's a synagogue, right? So, who are you going to ask? Ask maybe in the more specific group, right? If you're a Black female, you might want to know how safe is this city? How are we treated? Um, Things like that. So go to your subgroup. Okay. It seems obvious, but I think, sometimes when we have fears, we might not even think of that. So if you are even if it's something about pets, right? You might want to move with a pet. You could ask in the general group and you might get advice, but maybe there's, you know, and then you'll get maybe the subgroup within the general group who moved with their cat or moved with their large dogs. So join a general group and then join, if you can, a subgroup or a niche group, is what I would say. And again, for the loneliness, maybe I'll repeat it. The main thing to me, the most obvious thing, is right away follow what your hobby is. So whatever your hobby is, if whatever it is, any hobby, and you should have checked that before especially if you're expating there, does that hobby exist there? Is there a group? Do you do a type of dance? Do you do a certain creative activity, like you love to sing, you love to be in a choir? Do you love to do African dance or salsa dance? It always comes to my mind. What you know, right away, get in those groups. You're going to make friends. You're absolutely going to make friends. Now, this is if assuming it is a country where you speak the language. That's the only, caveat. Um, if there's a language barrier, that's going to be different. So these tips, unless I specifically say otherwise, are if you're going to a country where you already can speak the language. Go right into what your interest is, like whatever it is. If you are a Buddhist, right away. You're going to go to the particular Buddhist center, you're going to have done research. If or the church you go to, is there a related congregation? And right away, that loneliness, you're going to, I would say within a couple weeks, you're going to at least have acquaintances, and then over time. Now, we do know some countries, and I won't go into that, that's a separate video. Some countries, people are very polite. I hear, especially in the Nordic countries, they're very polite. And it has a lot to recommend it as a nation, the Nordic countries, the different countries do. But after a certain age, especially, it might be hard to break into their friend groups. So that is something you do want to research. You don't want to go to Finland expecting that they're just going to throw open their arms, or Sweden and the friend group that they've had since elementary school, suddenly they're going to want to be friends with this new American who doesn't speak the language. Okay. So that needs to be some of the research you do. But again, I'm assuming you're going to a country where either they're speaking English, English is very common, or you've started to learn the language. Okay. Hope these tips help. Ask more questions and give your comments as well. If you've done it successfully, give your tips in the chat. I would love that. Can learn something, we can help each other. Okay. And give me questions, fears that you may have. All right. See you in the next one.